moment.
All right, and actually, should I promote the website as well during my introduction, or should I save that for later?
Sure, you can promote the website, the equalitypa.org, as a place where people can go for more information.
Great. All right, hello, and welcome to our live telephone town hall meeting. Thank you for being on the line. You're on with Equality PA. This has been a big week for equality in Pennsylvania, so we've got a lot to talk about. We'll be getting you updated and taking your questions live during this call. So please press 0 to ask a question live in our forum. We have a panel of speakers here to answer, so don't hesitate to press 0 now or at any time during this forum. We'll get you with an operator and take your questions live. We'll also be running some polling questions, so please stick around and you can use your phone to vote in those polls. We're very much interested in your opinions and how this is affecting you. So please stick around and vote in those polls, and we'd love to take some questions. That's a big part of why we're doing this call, is we want to make sure that everybody's updated and everybody's questions are answered moving forward. I'm going to go through this introduction just a couple more times. We're being joined by thousands of Pennsylvanians right now, so we really appreciate your patience. We'll be joined in a moment here by Executive Director of Equality Pennsylvania, Ted Martin, and he'll get us started. But once again, we would like to take your live questions. So if you have a question you'd like to ask in this forum, press 0 on your phone now or at any time, and we'll get you up to ask that question live. We'd also like to run some polling questions. You'll be able to vote on those using your phone, so stick around for those. And if you'd like some more information right now while we're waiting to get started, you can go to equalitypa.org. Again, that's www.equalitypa.org. Now, once more, this is Equality PA with a live telephone town hall meeting this evening. This has been a big week for equality in Pennsylvania, so we've got a lot we need to talk about. We'll be getting you updated, and we'll be taking your questions live. So please press 0 now to ask a question live. We'll be getting you lined up, taking those questions live, and we really encourage you to do that. We'll also be running some polling questions, and we'd love it if you stick around to vote on those. We want to know how this is affecting you. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Executive Director of Equality Pennsylvania, Ted Martin. Ted, please take us away.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, and thanks for everyone who's joined. This has truly been a historic week in Pennsylvania, and one that everyone will remember. Whether you're LGBT or an ally, it is a remarkable moment. It is a remarkable moment, and so we are happy to be here today with all of you. We're happy to answer your questions. We're happy to be your resource, and I am truly happy to be joined on the call by two outstanding friends and allies and leaders in the community. With me this evening is Mary Catherine Roper, who is a staff attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union of Pennsylvania's Philadelphia office. She coordinates litigation on a broad range of civil liberties issues, including freedom of speech, religious liberty, racial and ethnic justice, equality for LGBT folks, student rights, privacy, prisoners' rights, and police misconduct. And she is the counsel in the Whitewood case, the case that made us all a little more or a lot more equal this week. Also joining me today is Angela Giampolo. She is an attorney, an avid entrepreneur, and advocate for the LGBT community. She started her own law firm, Giampolo Law Group, GLG, in 2008, and with the intention of providing a safe space for the LGBT community to serve all of their legal needs, with practice areas including business law, LGBT law, family law, real estate law, and international law. So I have two highly terrific experts to talk us through this evening and answer questions. And with that, we'll get right to it. So the first question we're ready for.
Great. Thank you very much. And once again, for those of you who are just joining us, this is Equality PA with a live telephone town hall meeting. We'd like to take your questions, so push 0 on your phone now and get in line to ask those questions live. We'd appreciate it. And if you'd like to, we'll have some polls up for you in just a moment. We do have some frequently asked questions to get the conversation started. So we're going to go ahead and start with that before we get your live questions up. The first one we'd like to ask is, what are the basics of the decision? Is there a chance that this could be overturned?
I would suggest, Mary Catherine, you take a stab at that, since really this is your case and you have been such a leader.
Oh, thanks so much, Ted, and thanks for inviting me to join you. I got to tell you, everybody at the ACLU is pretty excited about this decision. What happened on Tuesday is that Judge Jones, in our case, Whitewood versus Wolf, struck down Pennsylvania's DOMA. And when I say struck down Pennsylvania's DOMA, I mean that he ruled two things. First of all, he ruled that Pennsylvania could not refuse to recognize valid marriages from outside the state, marriages entered into by same-sex couples. Secondly, he ruled that Pennsylvania must offer marriage to same-sex couples. So this is, the effect of it is full marriage equality starting right away. Yesterday, the governor made our victory complete by saying that he's not going to appeal the ruling in the ACLU case. That means that for almost every purpose, this case is done. There are certainly some right-wing people out there who would like to try to enter the case and continue the litigation. We think it a near zero possibility that the court is going to allow that. So with, sort of the room for you never say never, but I'm going to say never. This is not going to be overturned. This is permanent.
Great. Thanks so much. And once again, if you'd like to ask a question, press 0. We'll run our first polling question in just a moment when we've got a full audience on the line. But let's go to another of these frequently asked questions to keep us going. I'd like to ask, what do I need to do to get my out-of-state marriage recognized?
Angela, I think perhaps maybe you can help with that.
Sure. So as Mary Catherine was saying, the Whitewood decision not only struck down Pennsylvania's mini DOMA, it also stated declaratively that all out-of-state marriages were to be recognized. I have been getting phone calls, however, from people that may not have converted civil unions previously to marriages in other states. So if you're someone who maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago may have gotten civil unions, the phone call that I fielded today was from New Jersey and also someone from Delaware, that if the state in which you were married in did not automatically convert your civil union to a marriage, and in that state you needed to convert your civil union to a marriage in order for that marriage to be recognized in that state, then I would recommend getting, quote unquote, remarried here in Pennsylvania. But other than that, like all of the other states, people have not been getting remarried every time a new ban is struck down. If you have a valid marriage license from either another state and or international jurisdiction. I also did field a question today from a client of mine in Canada. If you were married in an international jurisdiction where it was recognized, given the decision that came down, it will be recognized here as well in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I just would like for people to take note. When were you married? Was it a civil union? And did that state at that time convert it to marriage? And if not, then just make sure that you get remarried here in that case.
And this is Mary Catherine. I just want to add, some people have asked, where do I register my out-of-state marriage? Pennsylvania does not have a registry of out-of-state marriages. You don't have to send a copy of your marriage certificate to any government or anything like that. All you do is start filling out forms when they apply to you and fill them out married, because you are. Right. There are some things you might want to do in terms of, at the ACLU, we're suggesting that people take a look at, for instance, their insurance, because insurance is often priced differently depending on whether you're married. And you want to go talk to a tax professional about whether there's any kind of retroactive benefits that would be available to you in Pennsylvania based on your marriage status. That's a little more detailed than I'm going to be able to talk about. I don't know about Angie.
Yeah, I mean, there may be questions later that deal with that. I'm keeping insurance, taxes, and real estate for later. But as far as just out-of-state marriages being recognized, it will be recognized. Just be careful about a potential civil union issue. If anyone has questions about taxes, insurance, or real estate, I can handle those. And there are definitely specific things that people should be dealing with. I can get into them now, or maybe we can wait for specific questions. I'll leave that to the moderator.
Great. Yeah, we've got another question, and this one will be one of our first live questions from the audience. I do want to remind folks that may just be joining us, you're on with the Quality PA. If you'd like to ask a question, press 0. We'll be getting to our polling questions in just a moment. Now we have Linda live. Linda, go ahead with your question, please.
Hi. Actually, my question was just answered. It was about a wedding in Canada that we had, and I wanted to make sure that it was valid in Pennsylvania. And my second question was about taxes and about whether you can file retroactively the way that you can nationally.
So they haven't come down yet and stated one way or another if they're going to follow the federal rule thus far. Every state is allowed to either follow what the federal government does or not, but we're highly expecting that they will. So, but unless your partner passed away in the last 3 years, there may not be a huge refund. Pennsylvania state taxes tend not to be that onerous. Even myself as a business owner, the happiest check I have to write is to the Pennsylvania Commonwealth. So there may be specific, either health insurance and or homeowners insurance tax imputed issues that may come up. But the biggest one will be the 14.8% inheritance tax that people whose partners have passed away in the last 3 years have paid. And we're expecting that those will be retroactive. But your health insurance that has been imputed on you is federal, so you should be dealing with that on a federal level. The majority of other significant tax issues will be imputed, will be dealt with on a federal level. The biggest one that people are dealing with are family insurance policies and your inheritance tax return at 14.8%. So, and as a fellow Canadian, I don't know where you got married, but your marriage will definitely be recognized in the Commonwealth.
Great. Excellent. Thank you very much, Linda. Appreciate that. We'll go right to our next question. It comes from Mike. Mike, you're live. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike Steferi from Wyncote. My only question is if the churches discriminate against marriages, will the federal government have any laws or penalties against the churches for such as not validating the marriage or whatever? Or is there going to be special places where they're going to get same couples are going to get married, or how's that going to work?
Ted, if you don't mind, I'll jump in on that one, sort of our area of expertise here.
Yeah.
So under the Constitution, you have a right to equal treatment by the government, but churches have a right of freedom of religion. You don't need to get married by a minister in order to get married, and the government cannot force a church to recognize your marriage because that's a matter of religious exercise. So there will not be a requirement that a church marry you if it doesn't want to. On the other hand, you don't need a minister to get married. There's a whole list of people under Pennsylvania marriage law who are qualified to marry you, including, judges, justices of the peace, boat captains, and mayors. And I know, for instance, in Philadelphia, the judges are basically setting up a, come on in and get married. We're available, set of hours. I know the mayor is going to be marrying people. I know a lot of local mayors are going to be marrying people. You're not going to have any trouble finding an open-minded minister or a public official who's willing and able to perform that ceremony.
I also will say there are a number of faith traditions that will celebrate same wedding ceremonies. The Unitarian Universalist Association, Metropolitan Community Churches, United Church of Christ, Religious Society of Friends, the Quakers, Reconstruction Judaism, Reform Judaism. There are some places that will recognize and perform ceremonies, but you're just going to have to do a little bit of research that way. Remember, this is civil marriage. This isn't religious marriage that we're doing right now. So there are places that will do it, but you just need to do a little bit of research. And we'll post some things online so you can at least see, where your faith or what faiths may perform a service.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike, for your question. We're going to go to Mary's question live next, but I'd like to run our first polling question. We want to know, has the decision changed your plans to get married? Press 1 on your phone for yes and 2 on your phone for no. Again, has the decision changed your plans to get married? Press 1 on your phone for yes, 2 on your phone for no. And Mary's our next question. Mary, go ahead, please.
Oh, I think that the Montgomery County clerk who issued marriage licenses and got in trouble for it looks pretty good right now. But I'm wondering if the licenses he issued before this ruling will be respected legally.
So this is Mary Catherine Roper from the ACLU. That is an issue that is still in discussion by the lawyers in that who represent those couples. So what we're saying to people is, hang on, give it a couple of days, and we hope that there's no need for any further litigation on that. We hope that the state's going to do the right thing, but this is brand new, so that one may take a day or two to shake out.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary, for your question. We're going to go to our next question live from Sue. Sue, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I'm calling to ask about divorce. There's that 2010 ruling, I believe, was it in Berks County, that at that point divorce was not something that you could apply for in Pennsylvania. So how is that going to be fixed, I guess, so that if we were to marry, we would be able to access that other end of it?
I'll take this one, Ted.
Absolutely, Angela.
So this is Angela Giampolo. So and I've written extensively on this. I have said that several of my clients for 7 to 10 years have been wed locked in, as in locked into a cell phone contract that they got married in Massachusetts, and then because they have been living here in the Commonwealth, they have not been able to unwind, if you will, the relationship that they've been in. But that is now over, with Whitewood saying that out-of-state marriages are now recognized. Pennsylvania, with no appeal. That was very, very important. It was pretty shocking that within 15 minutes of the decision coming down, 3 of my 5 phone calls within 15 minutes were about divorces and not about getting married. So that is a real, very real situation that, I think thousands of couples or individuals within a couple have been dealing with here in the Commonwealth, that they've been stuck in this other relationship that they could not legally unwind, a legal straitjacket, if you will. So that wait is now over. You can get divorced just as easily as your heterosexual counterpart. It's just, I don't know if it would be contested or an uncontested divorce. That's upon the person, the 2 parties involved. But given the decision, any out-of-state recognized marriage is now recognized within the Commonwealth, and so you can dissolve it as such.
And I've heard from some family law attorneys, they have already filed divorces.
Yep, I already did my first one yesterday. I think he came down at 326 or 226, said he wasn't appealing, and before 5 p.m. my first divorce complaint was out. So.
All right, thank you, and thanks for that question. We're going to go to Ilya next. Ilya, go ahead.
Hi. My question is health insurance from employers. Would that be something that may be changing, where some employers did not recognize same-sex marriages? Now would they be forced to, since this is somewhat of an at-will state?
Angela?
So,
either one, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Mary Catherine from the ACLU. Let me just give you a little bit of legalese on this. Employers are not required to offer health insurance to spouses, but if they do, I would expect that the vast majority of them are going to offer it on a non-discriminatory basis to all spouses. If they didn't, that it's not at all clear that that's actually required in the law, and one reason for that is that, as I'm sure Ted will be talking about later, we still don't have a non-discrimination law in this state. But there'd certainly be an argument that kind of discrimination was discrimination on the basis of gender, which violates federal law. Really, that one, to the extent that any employer decides to take the hard road, that one may still be to be determined.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ilya. Appreciate the question. We're going to go to Jade next. Running a poll first, though. We want to know, will you now be getting married in Pennsylvania? Press 1 on your phone for yes and 2 on your phone for no. Again, will you now be getting married in Pennsylvania? Press 1 on your phone for yes, 2 on your phone for no. And our next question is going to come from Jade. Jade, go ahead.
Yes, hi, Jade from Bristol. My question kind of got answered. I'm not sure if there's any more you can go into on it, but I was just curious if there was going to be any laws against discrimination in the workplace for sexual orientation.
Well, I'll take that one. I think that this was a remarkable victory this week, obviously, but we're still not done. And the next step that we have to move forward, and what Equality Pennsylvania will be doing, is moving House and Senate Bill 300, or at least working to move those bills forward. They would prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression in employment, housing, and public accommodations. So if people understand it any simpler than this, you can get married, but in many parts of Pennsylvania, you can be fired by putting your wedding picture out on your desk. And that is wrong. And that is really the unfinished business of everything that's happened this week. And I think that's really what we need to do next, is really move that legislation. It has enormous numbers of co-sponsors right now. The governor has said he will sign it if it comes to his desk. Companies have come out in support of it. And I think it is time. And really that's sort of the next step. But I think people, need to understand we're just not finished. We're not quite totally there yet. I mean, Pennsylvania took a grand leap into the 21st century this week, but maybe with only its right leg, and still has to sort of pull the rest of its body over into the century. But I think that's the work that needs to be done. So that's our fight, and that's what we intend to get done. And things are going well. Things are going well. So we ask you to keep talking to your legislators, talking to people that need to understand that this discrimination does exist. And I think that's probably the best way we're going to move it forward.
And this is Mary Catherine from the ACLU. This is something that Equality PA, ACLU, other allies have been working on for years. We didn't forget, and like Ted says, we really need to keep the pressure on now to finish this work.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for the question, Jade. We're going to go to Julia's question live next, but I'd like to run our third polling question. Were you already married in another state but are now excited that Pennsylvania recognizes your marriage? Press 1 for yes and 2 for no on your phone. Again, were you already married in another state but are now excited that Pennsylvania recognizes your marriage? Press 1 for yes and 2 for no. And a little bit of housekeeping here. If you'd like to learn more about Equality PA, you can go to equalitypa.org. And you can actually push 7 now or at any time on your phone if you'd like to volunteer with Equality PA to make sure that the momentum for marriage equality moves forward to other areas of LGBTQ equality. So again, if you'd like to volunteer with Equality PA, push 7 on your phone right now or at any time. We'll make sure we get in touch with you. So 7 on that, and thank you for voting in our polls. Our next question comes from Julia. Julia, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Julia, and I have a question about adoption, and I'm kind of assuming that you would be able to adopt as a couple. And another question, another part of it is, what will happen in, like, for instance, in female couples, when one person is pregnant, what will happen? Will the other spouse still have to adopt their child? And also, I just wanted to say there are many of us who identify as queer and trans out there, and I just want to voice that there are still way a lot of issues to tackle. Thanks so much.
I'm sure either
I'll
Angela
take
or I think
first. Yeah.
Yep.
So Julia, your name? So at first, the first question would be, how are you adopting? So I heard you say, if my wife is pregnant, do I still have to adopt? So if you are doing IVF, regardless of whether you're married, you should always do a second parent adoption, so that for all intents and purposes, the parental rights of the sperm donor, known or unknown, are terminated. However, LGBT couples are 6 times as likely to adopt out of foster care and 4 times as likely to adopt generally. So what will be phenomenally more seamless in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with this is that you will be able to do a joint petition for adoption, the two of you together as a married couple, out of either foster care or, generally in the world, if someone in Arizona has a baby and you end up adopting that baby, you'll be able to jointly, as a married couple, adopt, and not you Julia having to adopt and then Julia's wife having to do a second parent adoption. So you'll be saving double the lawyer costs and double the time. But when it comes to IVF, you should always do a second parent adoption in order to definitely terminate the sperm donor's potential parental rights, whether known or unknown. That's sort of best practice.
Before Mary Catherine, I just wanted to take a moment before we get too further along on the question, but I really wanted to thank Julia for calling out for trans issues. I think that's really important and a really important part, not to gloss over in all the discussion about marriage. And we remain committed. I know the ACLU remains committed to making sure that trans people are included, that we're always inclusive in our discussions, and that there are a lot more discussions and a lot more issues out there. But the trans community is part of this, and we're really leaving no one behind. So I just wanted to say thanks to Julia for calling that out. Sorry, Mary Catherine. The floor is yours.
Oh, no, that's fine. Mary Catherine from the ACLU, that's part of what I was going to say was, thank you very much for raising that. If you have kids, if you want to have kids, if you want to adopt, as Angie said, adopting, even if one of you is the biological parent, always a good idea, because you may travel to a state or move to a state where your marriage isn't recognized. But it should get a lot easier, because you should be able to soon do what straight people do, a step-parent adoption, which is a little more streamlined than a second-parent adoption. But, these are situations, don't go into this alone. Get an attorney who's really experienced in using these things. If you don't know somebody, if you haven't already used somebody, by all means, the Mazzoni Center in Philadelphia has a great referral list. They only handle low-income clients, but they'll refer you to people who are experienced in these kinds of things. And when it comes to the structure of your family, you really want an attorney like Angie, like somebody else on the Mazzoni Center list who has dealt with issues for same-sex couples before.
And just if you're not only from Philadelphia.
Follow that up.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Angela.
Follow that up real quick. That at the end of the day, what Mary Catherine was just saying, every familial situation is different. So the step-parent adoption would be if you met someone who had kids previously versus wanting to go through the IVF process versus international adoption versus foster care versus a domestic adoption, but from someone in Arizona. there are just so many different. I'm on the board of the National Adoption Center, so while I never want to have children, I am extremely dedicated to adoption. There are too many kids out there that need to be adopted, and this is a passion of mine. But at the end of the day, legally, how you go about family planning is very specific to your situation. So on a macro level, all I can say is that what the marriage decision makes easier is foster care and domestic adoption, and the fact that you could do joint petition adoption. Any other type but regardless, I still recommend that you and any adoption agency that you would seek out, Adoptions of the Heart, or regardless of where you are in the Commonwealth, they will still recommend that you have the I's dotted and T's crossed by an attorney. And myself personally and several other law firms like myself that are nuanced in LGBT issues are on these lists, and so you'll feel safe, you'll feel comfortable, and the family planning process will be seamless.
Great.
I just want to say there are lots of resources around the state too. Just Amazonia is terrific, and in the Philadelphia area, Persad in Pittsburgh does wonderful work. There's an LGBT community center in Alder Health in central Pennsylvania. There are community centers in the Northeast. Obviously in Wilkes-Barre, one just opened. There's facilities in Erie. So I think hopefully you can reach out, and there's great centers and resources in the Lehigh Valley as well that you can reach out and have some support and get these questions answered. So please make sure to look around, look at our website, and we can certainly refer you to other places, as can the other folks on the call as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Ted. And we're going to go to Ginny next. A reminder, though, that if you'd like to ask a question, push 0 on your phone. Appreciate that. Ginny, you're live. Go ahead, please.
Hi. For those of us who were lucky enough to get married in Montgomery County prior to the injunction, I'm just curious as to what the recommendation is that we do at this point, since I know our marriages are still considered to be in limbo at this time. I mean, do we wait to see what the judgment comes from the courts, or do we just go ahead and roll the dice and go get married in a different county?
So this is Mary Catherine from the ACLU. What I'd suggest is you give it a couple of days, because I think that the litigation over the marriage licenses issued in Montgomery County is certainly going to be resolved very soon. I'm hoping that it is resolved with good news for the couples. If not, or if you aren't interested in waiting for that, you certainly can just get remarried.
Great. Thank you very much, Jenny. Our next question is going to come from Emily. Emily, go ahead.
Hi, I have 2 questions. The first is my wife and I were married out of state, and our deed is currently filed as tenants in common with survivorship rights. Do I need to refile my deed? And my second question is, if cases that are currently in the appellate courts make it to the U.S. Supreme Court and we get an adverse decision there, will that impact this week's decision in Pennsylvania?
I'm happy
Ted,
to
I'll
take
the first
second one, but good.
There you go.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'll go tag team. All right, go. So if you and your partner own property jointly, it's highly recommended that you retitle your deed to tenants by the entirety, which has up until yesterday been previously unavailable to LGBTQ couples in PA. And tenants by the entirety, it's truly a special type of joint ownership of property with rights of survivorship, just like what you have now, but it's only allowed between spouses. So what's special about that, if you will, is when one spouse dies, the surviving spouse immediately becomes the sole owner of that property. And what's important, and this is the key, and we can talk about this offline, is the property then passes outside of probate, as opposed to what would have happened by joint tenants with right of survivorship. And also, in addition, property owned by tenants of the entirety could also be exempted from judgments obtained against one spouse. Not that either you or your wife will get judgments against you, but debt collection, personal injury collections, what have you, any type of judgment against one of the two of you, joint tenants with right of survivorship, that creditor could try to attach 100% of the home. Whereas in this case, the entire home would be protected against that. So, what I keep telling clients is joint tenants with right of survivorship is so 2013. Get into the new age. All it takes is a redeed, along with the marriage certificate, which is now recognized. You will have to pay re-recording deeds, which is county specific. So you're looking at anywhere from $230 to $290, maybe $300 in terms of re-recording fees, and maybe a $250 legal fee in terms of drafting up a new deed. But other than that, you're good to go, and now you own it tenants by the entirety, which is the, within the United States of America, the sort of, black card way to hold property.
So this is Mary Catherine from the ACLU. Your question about, as everybody knows, I'll just put a little bit of background in. There are cases, of course, all over the country proceeding, and we have an unbroken string of 13 federal court decisions and many other decisions finding a constitutional right to marry. One of those cases, at least, is going to get to the United States Supreme Court. Ours will not, because I don't expect that there will be any recognized appeal of ours. If one of those cases gets to the United States Supreme Court, and this would surprise us, but the Supreme Court says, oh no, despite Windsor, despite everything you might have thought, states are not required to recognize same-sex marriages. That will not change the outcome in this case. We still will have had a decision not appealed, striking down the marriage law here. It will mean, as a technical matter, that the legislature could try to pass a new Defense of Marriage Act. I don't see that succeeding, but I'll leave that to Ted to talk about. He's the legislative guy here. But just because the Supreme Court decides that states don't have to recognize same-sex marriages, should that happen, does not undo what happened in the ACLU case, because we had a decision and the state's not going to appeal it. We're done.
I can. I'll just brush up on or sort of go over the political side that Mary Catherine brought up. I think it's pretty highly unlikely that the legislature, even in its present form, is going to bring up any attempt at amending the Pennsylvania Constitution or passing some sort of new or different DOMA law. I think the issue that I've heard from legislators, most people feel that the issue's been settled. A lot of people feel that the issue's been settled. Obviously they're complaining about activist judges. Obviously, I think that the lines that we've heard are around those issues. But I just think that there's not the political will to do it anymore. Polling is no longer there. An attempt to amend the Constitution 2 years ago was woefully supported by a very low number of people as co-sponsors. And so I think it's just not there. I think it's simply not there. So that is the sort of the remarkable and good part, the really remarkable and good part of this ruling, is that it once again says that, going after gay people politically just doesn't really work. And there's no outlet. And so I think that I feel cautiously very optimistic that the legislature is going to leave this issue alone. And unfortunately, I actually have to go, but I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to certainly let Angela and Mary Catherine continue. They're terrific allies. I want to thank both of them for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Levana Leyendecker, the Communications Director for Equality Pennsylvania. I actually have to go to another interview. But I want to thank everybody. This is a great historic moment for Pennsylvania, so enjoy it and go get married if you want to. So thank you, everybody, and I'll turn it over.
Great. Thank you, Ted. And Levana, are you with us?
I am. Thank you. Thanks for
bringing me in, and I'll be here if anyone needs me.
Great. All right, we're going to take our next question live from Elizabeth. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Hi, yes. I think you probably already answered this question, but I just wanted to get a clarification. If you were married out of state, do you have to do anything proactively to have the marriage recognized in Pennsylvania? And also, next year, I assume that married couples should be filing joint taxes as they would do on the federal level now, too.
So,
Angie,
this
go
is
ahead.
Angela. Yeah, this is Angela Giampolo of Giampolo Law Group. So, as we discussed earlier, depending on where you were married, it is highly likely that if you were married recently, that there is nothing that you need to do in order for your marriage to be recognized here, whether you're married in the United States and or Canada, one of the other 18 states, and or internationally, Canada, Spain, one of the other countries that recognize it. However, if you were married in one of the states that required, if you were not married, if you were civil unioned in one of the states that when they switched to marriage required you to get remarried, to actually get married in this, and they did not convert the civil union to marriage, as what happened in New Jersey. If you were civil unioned, then in that case you would need to get remarried here in Pennsylvania because you were civil unioned. So we had a little bit of a hodgepodge about 4 or 5 to 7 years ago between domestic partnerships, civil unions, and marriages all over the country and what it all meant. And a lot of states started to convert it. So if you were civil unioned in a state, I would suggest you reach out and determine what happened in that state. But if you were legally married in a state and or international jurisdiction, you are good to go. And as far as taxes, if you were married before this year, okay, meaning in Maryland or Massachusetts, what have you, you were able to take advantage of filing your taxes jointly on the federal level for the first time, but sadly you had to file separately in Pennsylvania. And we had a little bit of a hodgepodge this year, post-DOMA, but before Pennsylvania's recognition of marriage. But now, as of right now, married couples can file their PA income tax returns with a married filing status. And as I mentioned before, amended tax returns can be submitted as married for the past 3 years. So take advantage of, and right now you can actually pick and choose which years to file and potentially receive refunds. We do not know that loophole will be around forever, that pick and choose. So, and I don't think this applies to you, but if there's anyone new on the call, if anyone's partner has passed away in the last 3 years and you paid pretty much the highest, what I call gay tax in the country of 14.8, close to 15%, you hopefully will get official wording in the next few days, but we'll be able to file for a refund for that. And now moving forward, legally married same-sex couples will receive a tax rate of 0% for surviving spouses, which is absolutely huge and amazing.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for the question. Thank you, Angela. I'm going to go right to Justin's question live next. Justin, go ahead.
Hi, this is Justin from Wilkes-Barre. I just have a question. Me and my partner are going to get married, and I want to add his last name to my name. How would I go about doing that? Do I still have to go to the court and file a petition to get my name legally changed, or can I just do it when we both get legally married?
I'll take that one. I mean, Justin,
go ahead.
This is Angela Giampolo again. It's crazy how easy life is when marriage is legal. You will just, with your marriage certificate, be able to present at any federal and or state agency and get your name changed. For years, people have been paying me way too much money, and the Commonwealth way too much money in fees, both transgender individuals as well as gay people wanting to take their partner's name in, and then having to appear in court and go to a hearing. And that is no longer the case. Marriage is now legal. You are no different than your same-sex counterpart at work. And just when he or she gets married and automatically takes his or her last name, you will be able to do the same with your husband or he of your last name without any additional cost or having to go to court.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you, Justin, for the question. We're going to take our last question, and it's going to be from Chris in just a moment here. We're just about out of time, but I am going to encourage folks to leave us a voice message when we wrap up the call in a few minutes here. And there's a couple of things we'd like to get from you. If you feel like you didn't get your question answered, we'd love it if you'd leave us a voicemail message with your question, and if you'd like to get us to get back to you, contact information, your name to get back to you. But we also want to know, now that we have marriage equality, which issue is the most important to you? So we'd like you to stick around till the end and let us know which issue is most important to you now that we have marriage equality. And all you have to do is stay on after the end of the call in just a few minutes here. And a few of the ideas we have are non-discrimination protections, so LGBTQ Pennsylvanians can no longer be fired, evicted, or denied service, anti-bullying legislation, hate crimes legislation, advancing transgender rights, and ending HIV/AIDS. So if you would leave a voicemail when we're done in just a few minutes here, we'd really appreciate that feedback. And we'll go to Chris with our next question. Chris, go ahead, please.
Yes, my question is, excuse me, if you're legally married and your partner should pass away, do you have the rights to their Social Security and their pensions like a heterosexual couple would?
This is Mary Catherine from the ACLU. Yeah. Starting now, you do. So I think a lot of people heard things were really kind of confusing after the ACLU win in the Windsor case, because some federal benefits were immediately available to same-sex couples no matter where they were married, and some were only available depending on whether their home state recognized. So now that you're a Pennsylvanian, that whole confusion is gone. If you are married, you are eligible for every federal marriage benefit, and that includes any survivor rights that you would have if you were a married heterosexual.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Chris. And I believe we're about to the end of our call. Remember that we would like you very much to push
can I just address
7 on your
real
phone.
Quick before we end it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Can I just address a question that may not have been addressed, and then if anyone on the call has this question, it got addressed. The one question that I think is important that no one has asked yet is if you already have your estate planning documents in order, so you already have wills, you already have healthcare proxies, living wills, durable powers of attorney, all of those documents that have been absolutely essential thus far, I highly recommend re-executing them with your estate planning attorney, whoever you had it done with, or someone who is familiar with LGBT issues, so that the definition, and this is if you are considered legally married now. So if you're still unmarried, then it is what it is. But if now, based on the decision of Whitewood yesterday, you are legally married, your documents are outdated because they probably say domestic partner or some other definition. And it's very important that these estate planning documents reflect the legal relationship that is in existence. And now your spouses, or your husband and husband, or your wife and wife, whatever you choose to be, but the legal relationship should be reflected in that definition. And also, there are so many estate planning tools that we have not been able to use with LGBT couples. Pour-over wills. I mean, very basic things that are so impactful on tax savings and efficiency and avoiding probate, and so many things that, because we're technically unmarried, we were not able to do in your wills, that you may need to re-execute an entire new will now that you're married. And maybe things have changed in the last 7 years since you executed your will. Maybe you own new property, what have you. So now is a perfect time, Mary Catherine mentioned this at the very beginning of the call, to reach out to your estate planning attorneys, your tax advisors, your insurance advisors about your car, your homeowners, what have you. Married people have been benefiting for years over this stuff. Reach out to all those, and financial advisors, obviously. Reach out to all those professionals in your life and get your quote-unquote married home in order in the next couple of months. You guys have a lot of work ahead of you.
And I think Angie this is Mary Catherine from the ACLU. I think Angie may have mentioned this earlier. Until we get that United States Supreme Court decision, there are still places you could move to or travel to where your marriage is not respected. And so just a little bit of defensive planning here. Make sure you still have, those powers of attorney, those adoptions, et cetera, to protect you until we really have full marriage equality all across the nation, which I think we all hope and believe is going to be very soon. But until it is, take care of yourselves.
And not to be a double Debbie Downer, but Ted left you with 2 lawyers, so that's his because we're programmed to think negatively. But even I tell my clients, I give seminars every 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, and my clients say, Angela, if I get all these documents, am I protected? And I say, you know what? Even 10 years after full marriage and employment non-discrimination equality, you could still run into someone in the middle of Bumble, who knows where, who's homophobic, and you should have these documents in place in order to protect yourself. There are places in this country where, as a woman, I probably would not be allowed to vote if people had their way. You know, we live in a very, very interesting regional divided country, and at the end of the day, just because we get legal recognition does not mean homophobia is going away. So even as of the date of full recognition nationwide, I still think these documents are a must-have for gay and straight people alike, not just gay people. But so just to doubly add on to Mary Catherine's note of caution, even after marriage equality, these documents are definitely necessary.
All right. Thank you very much, Angela. And one last reminder to folks, if you'd like to volunteer with Equality PA to make sure that we can carry this momentum forward, please press 7 on your phone right now. 7 on your phone right now if you can take some time to volunteer. And don't forget to leave us that voicemail message with which issue you think is most important to you now that we have marriage equality. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to LaVonna to take us to the close.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for joining, and I've been watching the questions come in, and I know that a lot of you still have questions that you need answered, and many of you want to continue to engage. So I just want to let everyone know that I posted the ACLU's FAQ on the decision on our Facebook page, on Equality PA, on our Twitter, at Equality PA, and also on our website. So you can check it out there. We're going to write up the questions and answers that we did tonight and post it on a blog post tomorrow morning. And always sign up for our email list, and we'll keep you constantly updated with everything that's going on in terms of LGBT equality in the state. So thank you so much.
Can I add one?
For joining
I
us.
just want to add one quick thing,
Sure.
and it's sort of a last minute thing. The Mazzoni Center and the LGBT Committee of the Bar, of the Philadelphia Bar, ACLU, a number of groups are hosting on June 4th a town hall to answer even more questions. That'll be at the William Way Center the evening of June 4th.
And that's
keep thinking
in
of questions
for those
in Philadelphia. I'm sure there will be similar events around the state because we all know that lots of people have lots of burning questions, and we're just so excited, by the way, for you, for us, and thanks for joining.
All right. Thanks so much to everyone for joining tonight. I don't know, Angela, did you want to mention anything else before we close?
No, just if anyone has any questions, and either from an advocacy standpoint or legal questions, the easiest domain to contact me is phillygaylawyer.com. And I'm here just to either answer your questions and or actually help you with any legal work. And I'm going on a rainbow tour, as I call it. I have the entire map on my wall right now of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, all gay prides. So anywhere from Asbury Park to Philly to Lancaster to Wilkes-Barre, which I think Justin was from, to South Jersey to Reading to Harrisburg. just call me Cyndi Lauper for the next 3 months. I will be all over Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So.
Okay, thanks again, and congratulations to everyone on a really great week. So thanks so much, and good night, and keep in touch.